The National League Championship Series kicks off tonight with the Mets against the Dodgers. This is their first trip to the championship series in 9 years. The last time the Mets played in the NLCS, Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match. That's how long it's been. There is not a single match, by the way, on that pay-per-view where both people in the same match still work for that company. That's how long it's been. This team has been on a special run that I was not expecting. And it's been a lot of fun to watch them scratch and claw and fight their way to wins. I mean, you could be down 3 runs in the 8th inning and you just expect them to come back. And there's no guarantees of anything. The Dodgers are a tough team. But I bring this up because I was watching the Yankee game on TBS the other night. TBS or TNT, I forget which. I think it was TBS. And they had Bob Costas doing the play-by-play. And I had not had the chance to listen to Bob Costas in any of these games, but the reaction to his commentary on social media this postseason has been horrible. I mean, you would think that Kevin Patrick was back doing play-by-play on Monday Night Raw. Low energy, no enthusiasm, right? I've seen all the criticism. So finally, I'm watching one of the games, and he is as dreadful as everybody has been saying. Those TBS broadcasts are just fucking awful. Even the camera angles they use, like they have that wide shot where the pitcher and the batter are like far left of the screen. Like my OCD was just driving me nuts, and I assume it's because they want to get the sponsor in the shot on the right. But I just think as a viewer, it just looks horrendous. But anyway, so I'm watching the game, and I tweeted about that time that Christian came back to WWE in 2009. Remember, they put him on the ECW brand. He was supposed to come back at the Royal Rumble that year as Jeff Hardy's mystery attacker and cost him the title. But they called an audible and they went with Matt Hardy instead, turning on his brother because they figure, well, you know, the word was out. Everybody was expecting Christian. Vince McMahon thought it would be too predictable. Even during the match between Jeff and Edge, if you watch that Rumble show, you could hear fans chanting, "We want Christian, we want Christian." So he probably would have been cheered had he shown up, which is not the response that they were looking for. So he ends up going to ECW instead. And that is when we got Todd Grisham's infamous call of, it's Christian. Like in the most unenthusiastic, just monotone, driest possible manner. And in the tweet, I said, remember that? Well, that Grisham call was still more enthusiastic than Bob Costas calling postseason baseball games. Well, Grisham saw the tweet, and he quote tweeted me with a response. Now, I was not expecting my Bob Costas tweet to make news, but indeed it did, and now we know why Todd Grisham said it the way that he did. I think we could have guessed right off the way that the Irish madman used to micromanage all the announcers, but I don't think he's ever told the story before. If he has, maybe it was on some obscure podcast that there's really not a lot of talk about it. But Grisham said right before he walked out of the gorilla position before the show that night, Vince McMahon called him over and said, in no uncertain terms, when Christian walks out, don't get excited at all. Just simply say it's Christian and that's it. Do you understand me? And what is the guy supposed to say? It's his boss. Of course, he said, yes, sir. And that's why we got what we got. So it's nice to know that from the moment Christian came back to the company, Vince McMahon was trying to sabotage him. First, he took a much bigger spot away from him at the Royal Rumble. And then he warned the announcer to basically no-sell his return, like his fucking waiter brought out the wrong order. So then Tony Khan sees this tweet from Todd Grisham. It's 1:00 in the morning, and he replies, "This is insane." And then Tony tweets, "Christian Cage is the man." And Christian was trending on Twitter for the next 48 hours. Now, I cannot help but feel responsible for this, but you know what? It may not have been my intent, but I'm glad that it trended, because Christian is the man. He's done some of the best work of his career in these last few years. And I find it kind of poetic that Vince McMahon once wanted to superimpose a blue dot over Christian's face on TV because he didn't like the way his face looked. Alex Greenfield told the story. He was a writer for the company at the time. This was many years ago. and they were on a flight to the UK. And Christian was starting to get really popular at the time. And on the plane, Vince is sitting there and he just turns and he goes, you know, his face really bothers me. And they're like, you think he's ugly? And he goes, no, he's not ugly. He just has a ratty looking face. He's got like a rat face. We should do the Kennedy gimmick. And nobody knew what the fuck he was talking about. Like, what Kennedy gimmick? Like, what Kennedy gimmick? You want him to get shot in the head? Like, what are you talking about? But no, in the 90s, there was a member of the Kennedy family who was charged with rape. And when his accuser took the stand during his trial, all the television networks, they put a blue dot over her face to shield her identity. That's what he wanted to do with Christian, because he thought he had a rat face. So it's poetic that Vince is the one more likely these days to have a blue dot over his face than Christian, if they ever show him on TV again.